This is part 2 of my Tamiya Avante 2011 tuning series. So yesterday I took this to my local racetrack to practice for the next vintage race, and I found a lot of problems with this that I was not able to solve from the previous video. So the last time I talked about setting this up, I had gear diffs. I switched to ball differentials from the torque splitter set for the Avante 2011. The ball diffs are better. They're more adjustable, they're smoother, but they didn't help with the car wandering a lot. It's still very, very hard to keep this car in a straight line, and it's a different design. It's from another time, and you can't really slide this thing around the track like you can with like a B44 or a modern four-wheel drive chassis. So, and that was when I was running these old Associated shocks, and I was really struggling with getting the right ride height and spring rate. And the problem with this chassis is the shock towers only have, say in the back, 2 mounting points for the rear shocks, and for the front, only 1 mounting point. Either, on the stock setting, which is basically on this plastic bit here, or if you get a shock tower, it only has 1 mounting hole. Which means that if you want to change the ride height on some other chassis with a lot of mounting holes, you can move this shock around and push the chassis up or down. Here you have to adjust the preload to change the ride height. But that also changes the effective spring tension. So those two are coupled together, and that makes it difficult to work with. So what I did just now is install the high capacity dampers from Tamiya. You can get these for the Avante 2011. These are relatively new. Tamiya 84301 and 84300 for the rear and front respectively. Don't remember how much they cost. I think they're like $40 each, or per pair. So they do feel a little bit smoother than these Associated shocks, at least for the preloads that I've been playing with. So we'll see how these work. Maybe the chassis will wander less. To mount them, the manual suggests that you use a certain metal ball cup that goes into the top shock cap, but RPM makes these really nice Delrin ball cups that fit perfectly in here. Makes this really nice and smooth. So I'd recommend picking those up. Let's see, what else? These metal ball ends, I've spoken quite a lot about these, and one of their main problems is that even though they're very smooth, once you get dirt in them, they get very, very squeaky, and they start to generate a fair amount of friction. So all you have to do is just spray them down with simple green. Just give it, a couple squirts here, wherever you use them, and just, move them around a little bit and let it dry out, and they're nice and smooth again. So it's a very effective way of cleaning these ball ends. So I'd recommend that. Another problem I had with this chassis is the under tray. The problem with the under tray is that it is held on with 3 body clips, one on this side, one on the other side, and one in the back. And the body clip in the back kept popping out. I lost 3 body clips just yesterday alone testing this thing on the track. And in the front, there's a small hole where the mounting post fits onto, and the front Lexan is relatively thin. That tore off, and this whole thing just fell off. So what I did was just take a reamer and put a few holes in the front. So these 2 screws here are the back 2 screws for the front gearbox, and then I did 1 screw down here for the rear gearbox. I was going to do 2, but I missed the whole placement. But 3 screws seems fine. It holds it down in place. Now the trick is figuring out how to pull the battery in and out. This Lexan is flexible enough to get in there. You got to have good dexterity for this though. But you can, pull this out, this body clip out. You can pull out this mounting piece here, and when you slide the battery in, you just basically, pull this down, and you slide the battery in from the front towards the rear. You may have to get in there a little bit and shift things around, but I am able to mount my battery packs in here but I use the Turnigy 4.2 amp hour packs. They're small enough to fit. If you have a shorty pack, those should fit pretty nicely as well. So you can actually mount and dismount batteries without removing the under tray. It's just a little more tricky, but it is possible. Okay. What else do I want to point out? I think that's it. There is some slop here in the steering, but it doesn't seem to be any different than the amount of slop that you would have in a modern four-wheel drive buggy. So I don't think this is what's causing the wandering problem. I noticed on the track, basically with the front springs I had here, I tried different preload settings. This just happens to be a very tense preload setting. But no matter what I was doing, any bump or anything, the car would just dart off in a certain direction, probably because the front end is relatively light. So softer springs and softer damping will help with that, but the front end is still relatively light compared to the rear because all the weight, your motor, your electronics are all toward the back. So maybe I'll try to find a place here to put some lead weights, see if that'll help a little bit. But for now, I'm just going to experiment with these high capacity dampers. Hopefully that'll help. But the dartiness is really what limits this chassis. It's just so hard to keep it in a straight line. So we'll see how this goes. The next vintage race is in about a week. And so, I'll give a status update on how this setup works for that and what other changes I make by that point if I make any. Okay, that's it.